Feeling behind in life. Statistically, this is a feeling that almost everyone experiences at some point in their life, myself included, and it can be pretty uncomfortable simply because it makes you think that every life choice you've ever made is somehow wrong, and you start doubting your entire life and your decisions and where you are right now, and you start feeling very lost. And it can be something that you feel because of your professional life, it can be because of your personal life, it can be because of your social life, and no matter which category it is equally daunting and just excruciating for the person and causes a lot of anxiety. So in today's video, I will try to help you understand why is it that you feel this way and what you can actually do in order to not feel this way and maybe have a new perspective about life. Small disclaimer, I'm actually filming this video in a period of my life where I can share those feelings, and so all of the different types of mindset shifts or things to consider or solutions are things that have personally helped me a lot, and I hope they really do the same for you. So there are arguably a few reasons why one might be feeling behind in life, and one of the most obvious ones is the fact that we have this natural tendency to compare ourselves to other people and compare our lives to other people's lives. And fortunately or unfortunately, living in the age of social media, we don't just compare ourselves to the people that we know and that we're very close to or that they are in our circle, but we also compare ourselves in our lives to the lives of the dozens or hundreds of people that we see on social media. And I think we can all agree that at some point we just have this feeling that everybody else has it all figured out and we don't. And this is particularly what makes us feel behind in life, or it makes us feel so lost. So please allow me to influence you for a second. As someone who has somewhat of a community or following on social media myself, I receive a lot of messages from lovely, lovely girls who always say, that they admire my life or they admire me, and that they just wish they had my life, and it's just so admirable how I have it all figured out, and they just wish they were just in the same situation right now. And every time I read one of those messages, I just wish I could have this person in my brain for 5 minutes to prove them that I actually don't. I don't have everything figured out, and that doesn't mean that my entire life is a mess, but it definitely means that what you see, especially on social media, but even with people in real life, is not the whole picture. Everyone has their own problems, everyone lives in their own small world, and I am personally yet to meet someone that can actually say, yes, I have it all figured out. The reason for that is simply the fact that yes, maybe what you see, or from the point of view that you see me, you think that I have it all figured out. But me, myself, I also compare myself to other people in my age or in my circle that I feel like they have way more things than I do figured out. And so that happens to every single person. I know people who are millionaires and they still have this sort of imposter syndrome, or this feeling of they're behind, because they themselves know other people that they have done more and they have more and they're more successful, and so on and so forth. And so one thing that you can do in order to relativize this whole feeling of I am behind in life, or at least one of the things that has actually helped me, is to try to make positive comparisons. So I think what really helps me is that I try to spot the parts of my life that I feel like I'm very successful in, or I've got it together. And the key here is to spot those parts of your life that you feel good about, not that other people tell you that you are very great at or that you excel in. So, for example, a lot of people in my circle tell me that I'm very professionally accomplished, which, for good or for bad, I don't feel that way about myself. Maybe because the people I compare myself to are way more successful and so on and so forth. But one of the things that I feel amazing about is my relationship. I know a lot of people, a lot of young people struggle to find their forever person and the love of their lives, or just to find a relationship that makes them feel good about themselves and makes them feel loved and supported. And in that area, I personally feel like I have won the jackpot. So all that to say that social comparisons are inevitable, but if we try to focus on positive comparisons, make us feel good about our lives and our choices, that sort of focus can create small waves of hope and happiness that can help us validate our everyday life and our experience and make us feel a little bit less lost because we have at least one part, big or small, figured out. So once you have done that, you're probably thinking, okay, so now what? What am I supposed to do? And a good way to think about that is, what would you do if you didn't feel like you were behind? So in psychology, there is this concept called cognitive bias, which essentially means that each one of us creates a subjective reality based on their experience of the input. And so saying to ourselves that I am behind is a type of cognitive bias that then propels us to certain actions or certain decisions that in theory are going to resolve this problem or this feeling, and they're going to help us to not feel that behind. Let me explain what I mean. So for example, if somebody feels behind in life academically because everybody else seems to be having a PhD, but that person doesn't have a PhD, then they might rush into getting into a PhD program so that they can seemingly feel better about their behindness. Or another example could be that if somebody is not in a relationship and everybody else seems to be in a committed, solid, stable relationship, then they might rush to get into a relationship because they want to mitigate that feeling of being behind in their personal life. So the idea here is to reflect and try to understand, what will we do if we didn't feel like we were behind? Would you still want to do that PhD, or you wouldn't care at all? Would you still want to get into a relationship, or would you rather just travel for a few years or like a year and then try to see if you want to settle down and get into a relationship? Would you still want to go after that promotion, or would you rather stay in your current position for a little longer and learn more things and just keep your current routine and working hours? So essentially, when we think that way and we make the decision that we would have made despite of our behindness, the idea is that in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, we end up feeling way better and way more in sync with ourselves, because this is a true, authentic decision that reflects the idea of what we want our life to be and what are the things that we truly want to do in order to feel fulfilled and happy. Another very helpful thing I recently read about decisions is that for the most part, people make decisions based on what they think they're supposed to be doing, what they think other people want them to do, or what they think makes them special. So for example, somebody graduates from law school and then they proceed by becoming a lawyer because they think that this is what they're supposed to be doing. Or somebody chooses to be a doctor because they think that their family will only be proud and happy if they become a doctor, and they don't ever consider doing anything else. Or somebody decides to become an entrepreneur because they think that this is the big thing that is really going to set them apart. And so the idea here is not necessarily to stop making decisions that way, but mostly to acknowledge why are we making the decisions we are making, because the moment we understand the thought or cognitive patterns behind our decisions, it is also the moment that we start, the stress of where is my life going gets a little bit alleviated, because we understand what actually propelled us to make a certain decision. Because when you realize that you made a decision because you thought that this is what you're supposed to be doing, this kind of realization also opens the door for the question of, what if I wasn't supposed to be doing that? Or what if I wasn't supposed to be doing anything else specifically? What if I can try to do something else and then see where that leads? So the tip here essentially is to try to look at our lives and our choices and decisions as objectively as possible, because truth is for the most part are comfortable, but it is almost always liberating. The next thing that severely impacts this whole feeling of I am behind is the way we see things, and specifically the way we approach our life's aspiration. And that is that for the most part, we see our life in bipolar terms. So either I made it or I failed. Either I got the job or I got rejected. Either I'm in a relationship or I'm single. And even though I understand that these phrases, they all look very objectively true, the idea here is that life is not an either or game. There is a start, there is a destination, and then there's everything in between. And so if we make the goal the in-between, then that can significantly improve our quality of life, and it can significantly lessen this feeling of I am behind. Concretely, between the I made it and I failed, there is the I figured out how am I supposed to make it. And so in between, you are seemingly failing, but in reality, you're collecting data and skills in order to not fail in the grand scheme of things. In between, I got the job and I got rejected. It's the I learned how to pitch myself and be convincing, or the I learned which industry best matches my talent. And so until you get there, you seem to be always rejected, but in reality there is something very important happening between these two states of I got the job and I didn't get it. Between I am single and I'm in a relationship, there is the I got to know myself and my needs part so that I can end up being in the right relationship. You see what I'm saying? The solution to feeling less lost or less behind is to have answers. And to have answers, you need data. And so instead of starting things or like getting into things because you want to arrive at the destination, you should be trying to do the same things, but for the single purpose of figuring things out and not getting to that state where you consider it to be success. Focusing on the in-between and not the end point is actually the solution to your anxiety and the solution to feeling way less behind in life. And obviously I know that the reason why most of us are obsessing over the destination or we're longing for it is because we feel like that once we get there, then we have fulfilled our purpose and this is where we're going to be happy and where we're going to feel good about ourselves and so on and so forth. But objectively, the idea isn't to just find ourselves once and then call it a day, but to keep discovering ourselves every single day, because objectively, ourselves change every single day. And so our purpose changes every single day, and the things that we want to achieve change every single day. And so if we look at it realistically, once we get to that place, that destination, that success, for the most part, we don't end up getting so much pleasure out of it or so much satisfaction. And that's the idea of the whole arrival fallacy, that once I get there, I will be happy. Once I do that, I will be blah, blah, blah. Because we feel like the end point is what is going to complete us. But once we get there, it's already irrelevant or it's not important anymore. And so I'm not saying to not do things altogether because once you succeed, they are no longer important, but mostly to get into things out of a profound curiosity, to figure things out and to find yourself, rather than out of an obsession to succeed or to become this XYZ person. And finally, I want to close off with my own life's most daunting question or like fear, which is, but what if I never make it? What if I never find the answers to my quest? And what if it was all for nothing? And so what I try to tell myself every single time, and it really helps me put things into perspective, is that I've had this kind of feeling or this kind of question for multiple years. I've felt the same way so many times in the last years. And so when I look at myself today, who I am today and how I feel today and what I have achieved today, and I compare that to all of the other times that I've had the same question or that I've felt the same way, what and who I am today is way more advanced, successful, and happy. And so at the end of the day, it cannot all be for nothing, because so far it has all been for good. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, please consider to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below letting me know which advice resonated with you the most. And if you enjoy watching self-development videos, then you will find plenty of those in my account. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video.